Good afternoon. Thanks, everybody, for joining us again today, continuing to provide necessary updates on the unprecedented wildfire situation here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Minister Haggie is joining us virtually. With me today again is Jamie Chippett, Deputy Minister of Forestry, also joined by Constable James Cadigan from the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary, and Dr. Janice Fitzgerald, Chief Medical Officer of Health for Newfoundland and Labrador, who are going to provide some important messages and updates as well today. First of all, just a note to the firefighters throughout the province, I want to take a moment to specifically talk to the volunteer firefighters in our communities. You've heard me talk about how important they are in their communities, not only for fighting, but volunteering in their communities in various capacities for various things, and not only responding to fires, but medical calls and other serious situations as well. And they are continuing to add so much to our suppression efforts and doing so much to continue to keep communities and, most importantly, people in those communities safe. I know that thank you isn't enough, and it will never be enough. And over the past number of years, number of days, you've all given a lot, which is more than the already high burden we ask of you to do and you volunteer to do as volunteer firefighters. It's an understatement to say there's been long, stressful, scary, and difficult days away from your families. Hot, dry weather, and the pressure of doing everything that you can do to help your neighbors. Because, of course, in Newfoundland and Labrador, we know that volunteers always do what volunteers do, and they do it for the right reasons and not for selfish reasons. But the situation we face today is completely different than any situation that we've faced in years, and probably not what they thought they were signing up for, but they're certainly not shying away from the challenge. So the government of Newfoundland and Labrador will be taking measures to compensate volunteer firefighters for these extraordinary circumstances. We have to recognize the volunteer firefighters who possess the necessary training to aid in this wildfire relief and in the many other jobs that are required, including traffic control to afterburn cleanup, to be that necessary strength for us. And I recognize this is not a normal situation, and we can't treat this as anywhere near normal. So I will have more to say on that in the coming days, very soon, but I want all the volunteer firefighters to know we appreciate the sacrifice and the efforts, and we will always be there for them. And you've had our backs, and we'll have yours. So we are in the process of issuing an additional evacuation alert for the areas of Southlands and Galway. That is the appropriate measure to take at the time, given how far the fire has moved south in the Paddy's Pond area. I believe right now it will be very close to the Trans-Canada Highway. We are also in the process of expanding the regional state of emergency to parts of St. John's, parts of Paradise, and parts of CBS. Minister Haggie can comment a little further on that, but as you recall, we have a state of emergency in the Conception Bay North area, which does allow for more coordinated efforts in terms of how we are fighting these fires. If there is an evacuation order, there will be a further note on that. This is just an alert at this time, and there's a continued alert for the one that was put in place for Paradise and CBS last night. There are not evacuation orders for these areas. In the event there are evacuations for any parts of these communities under alert, it will be a phased approach, and details on that will be forthcoming. Just to note as well that when we talk about people having go bags prepared, it's important to not only have them prepared, but in the event that you're gone to work for the day or out anywhere out from your home, it's not a bad idea to take your go bag with you in the event there's an evacuation order that occurs while you're not at home and you're not able to get back to your house. I'll provide some specific updates on the various fires now. The Kingston fire overnight, it continued to grow and is now at 6,370 hectares. Our ground crews are continuing to work on fuel breaks at the southern boundary, and a fuel break as well is being constructed to the north. There's a third attempt to build a fuel break on the northern portion of the fire, but rapid fire growth and extreme fire behavior has pushed crews farther north each time. Air assets will be in Kingston, and ground crews and local fire departments are continuing to action the wildfire throughout the day. And just as we did when the Holyrood fire was out of control, as well as with the fires in Chance Cove and Musgrave Harbour, the distance by air between Kingston and the Paddy's Pond fire is not far. It's fewer than 100 kilometres. so we are able to move resources quickly and as requested by our fire behavior specialists and operations team to focus on both of these fires. Just so it's clear to everyone that decisions are made with regards to the air assets are based on the expert advice from our fire behavior specialists and our operations team. It's important to keep in mind that these individuals who are working 24/7 around the clock to keep us safe have done this before and have kept us safe before. We don't have to look very far in the past to see the tremendous work and decisions that they've made and have paid off. Think of the fires in Central. I think of the fires in Labrador. So we continue to take the expert advice from those who know what they're doing. Unfortunately, this fire now is at the areas of Ochre Pit Cove and Western Bay, and we anticipate, based on what we can see at this moment, that there is significant loss in both of these communities. The Paddy's Pond fire continues to be very active, and the incident management team are utilizing air assets, ground crews, and the St. John's Regional Fire Department to respond continuously today. Just so you can see the map here about the size of the fire, which is approximately 200 to 300 hectares, and smoke is continuing to make it difficult to get the exact size at this time, so this is a rough estimate. As you can see there, I think the fire would have moved already a little bit further south towards the highway. The blue circles are the areas where the air assets will be focusing and targeting their efforts throughout the day, of course, to stop it from moving further north and further south as well. There is construction of fuel breaks that started this morning in the Three Arm Pond area, and the TCH remains closed between the Cloverleaf, which is Pitts Memorial Drive, Outer Ring Road, and Exit 39, which is the Fox Trap Access Road. We continue to remain in close contact with NL Hydro and the Provincial Emergency Operations Center and ongoing conversations with Newfoundland Power to plan and prepare and mitigate potential system impacts. There are 5 water bombers and 1 bird dog at this site this afternoon. Unfortunately, our 4th Newfoundland and Labrador water bomber just had some maintenance issues, so they're obviously continuing to work on that and get that back in the air as soon as possible. The Martin Lake wildfire had minimal growth and is approximately 290 hectares. Ground crews are working today on the southwest edge, and equipment will be moved to the northern edge for fuel break construction. The 802 air tractors and bucketing helicopters will be providing air suppression, and Route 360 remains open, but of course we continue to monitor that situation and the impacts the fire and smoke may have on the highway. The 2 Quebec water bombers and the air tractors and bird dog are at this site. Holyrood fire continues to remain under control and is continuing to hold at 22 hectares. There's minimal fire behavior observed, and the fire is fully contained within hose lines. The Labrador fires are both okay, in good shape. We're okay there. Assets that are on the way, there's 4 high-capacity helicopters, one of which will be arriving tonight. 2 Blackhawks are en route and should be here Thursday. Those are coming from Utah. And a Sikorsky helicopter via Canadian Helicopters will be on the way as well. Again, us sitting up here can only imagine the stress and the situation people are in terms of being evacuated, waiting for evacuation, or being evacuated and having lost your homes. I want everybody to know that every region in this province is important, and at no stage are we prioritizing one region over the other. As I said, decisions are guided by the experts, guided by science, safety, and strategy to protect as many people, as many Newfoundlanders and Labradorians and communities as possible. The experts team are always in action, and as I said, the incident command teams are highly trained professionals, and they use advanced tools and data, scientific analysis to make informed decisions about where and how to fight these fires most effectively. Crews are actively engaged on the ground, in the air, and are constructing fire barriers. It is a coordinated effort, and it is crucial to slowing the fire spread in all parts of the province. Despite the efforts, safety is always paramount, and there are situations where it can be and has become too dangerous to send personnel directly into the fire and to fly over the fires as well. And we will never compromise the safety of our teams. They face extreme conditions and risks every day. Our teams are working tirelessly, and we are deeply grateful for the support from communities, partners, and volunteers. and together we will get through this with resilience, determination, and care for one another. We are managing both Kingston and Paddy's Pond Fire from the same incident command center. I think that's important for people in the province to realize. We have been in contact as well with the federal government in terms of potential financial assistance and disaster relief, which of course that analysis will come when we get through this, but certainly look forward to working with our federal partners in helping rebuild any of these communities and losses throughout the province. And the final comment I make is that my understanding is that there are fines pending, which will be given out subsequent to the increase in fines under the Forestry Act regulations, which we recently made. When those fines are given, we'll certainly provide any information we can. So having said all that, I now ask Constable Cadigan for some important comments and updates.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here to discuss information connected to the RNC investigation connected to the wildfire, as well as what the RNC and emergency responders have encountered during the response to the wildfires, and some things to consider as we see evacuation orders and different scenarios come into play in our community, and how we can all promote safety in the process. So I'll start off with the initial response. Essentially, just before noon yesterday, the RNC responded to a report of a fire burning along a pole line in the area of Paddy's Pond. And the officers who did respond spoke to a number of people who were in the area at the time. And investigators are now looking to identify and speak to the driver of a vehicle who was observed leaving just prior to the fire being reported. That driver was described as a female who was traveling in a dark SUV that left Paddy's Pond and headed east on the Trans-Canada Highway. It is believed that she may have information to support the investigation. Anyone with information or video footage that includes CCTV, dash camera, cell phone, between 10:30 a.m. and noon yesterday in the area of Peacekeepers Way, Trans-Canada Highway at Paddy's Pond is asked to call the RNC at 729-8000. So further to that, some things that were encountered so far during the response, and one thing that has created impediment to the response itself is traffic issues related to people stopping on Peacekeepers Way, Trans-Canada Highway, accessing Fowler's Road among the emergency responders and stopping to take pictures or just have a look. And that's something we want to see come to a full stop. You know, we need people to avoid these areas, allow these emergency responders to operate safely. And, you know, in a case where we see evacuation orders come into play, our officers and our resources are prepared to, you know, support that effort. We have resources on standby, awaiting the moment that their services are needed. And in a case where we do see, you know, offenses such as parking on a highway and so on, you know, we will be taking action. This is a time, an emergency, and it calls for immediate action in those scenarios. So there will be intervention upon observance of such behaviors. Further to that, you know, of course, in the past number of days, we have received complaints related to fires, some of which were determined to be propane, which are permitted at this time, but there were unattended fires. So again, we want to stress the importance here. While an emergency response of this nature is going on, the best thing our community can do is be a part of that response by simply following the regulations and guidance from the Provincial Emergency Operations Centre. It truly is an effort of the community collaboration. You know, if we don't have everybody buying in, then we could be here a lot longer, and that's the reality. And that does it for me right now, Premier.
Yep, thank you very much. Very important messages for the community here, so we appreciate all the work that the RNC does, obviously not only in these emergency situations, but each and every day in our province. Dr. Fitzgerald, welcome back to the Media Centre.
Thank you, Premier, I think. Good afternoon, everyone. So this certainly has been a challenging, anxious, and trying few weeks, and I can appreciate that some people have been tested to the limit and have suffered really overwhelming losses. During times like these, we are all scared by uncertainty and what may seem like a loss of control. So I really think it's important to remember that we have been through hard times and persevered, and we will do it again. Now is the time to pull together, to take care of one another, and to look for those glimmers of hope that can get us through even the darkest of times. Wildfires are traumatic events, and while the physical destruction of wildfires is visible and immediate, their impact on mental health can be significant, invisible, and persistent. So today I want to emphasize the importance of protecting your mental health and to talk about some services that are available. And while this is a challenging time for many, it is a very important time to prioritize mental health and well-being during and after a wildfire event. So some ways to support your mental health include to seek and provide social support. Connecting with your loved ones, friends, and community members can be a valuable support to you and to others around you. And we encourage you to openly discuss your mental health concerns and to seek help when needed, including professional help. Some supports that are available locally are Doorways walk-in clinics, which are available in person or virtually. There's Bridge the Gap, which can be accessed by visiting nl.bridgethegap.ca, and the Provincial Health Line, which is easily accessed by calling 811. You can also call the LifeWise Warm Line, a non-emergency, non-crisis telephone support and referral service provided by trained peer support workers, available 10 a.m. to 12 midnight daily, by calling 1-855-753-2560. First responders have been working tirelessly to respond to these wildfires in the heat and smoke, putting themselves between us, our communities, and the wildfire. It takes a huge physical and emotional toll, and our thanks are limitless. If you are a first responder and require support, please reach out to our First Responder Warm Line. First responders from all disciplines can reach out to the Warm Line, available 12 p.m. to midnight 7 days a week, by calling 1-709-237-4180. As well, NL Health Services has assigned a social worker to provide in-person mental health supports to first responders at their staging area in Victoria. For areas currently under evacuation or an evacuation alert, individuals can connect with a mental health and addictions professional at Carbonear Academy. This is at 88 Valley Road, Carbonear. Social workers and mental health nurses are also on site to provide supports. Virtual and in-person mental health counselling is also available in Carbonear through Doorways. And of course, as I said, you can anywhere, people can call 811 or visit Bridge the Gap. Wildfire smoke has been a concern over the last few days, and certainly, I've done media on this before, but just to reiterate, people with lung conditions such as asthma or COPD are most vulnerable to the effects of wildfire smoke. People with heart and other chronic conditions, pregnant persons and infants may be especially vulnerable to smoke as well. And while most of the health effects of wildfire smoke are transient and will disappear as the air quality improves, it is important to try to reduce your exposure as much as possible. So the best way to protect against any health effects is to reduce your exposure, and to do that, managing indoor air quality at home is probably the best way to do that. So stay out of the smoke as much as possible, but when you're indoors, keep your windows and doors closed. Consider protecting your indoor air from wildfire smoke by using a clean, good quality air filter in your ventilation system, or a portable air cleaner that can filter fine particles. Turn your air exchangers off as they pump in air from the outside. If you must spend time outdoors, limit the time as much as possible. If you are in smoke, a well-constructed, well-fitting, and properly worn respirator-type mask, such as the one that I have here, can reduce your exposure to the fine particles in smoke. But it won't reduce your risk completely. But surgical masks, the kind that we used during COVID, they are not going to protect you outside, really. The Air Quality Health Index, or AQHI, is a scale that helps to communicate health risks posed by short-term exposure to outdoor pollutants such as wildfire smoke. So as of 12:30 today, the AQHI in the metro areas and surrounding areas is currently 3, but in areas of smoke it's at 10. So This means that if the air around you is clear, then the risk is low. But if you can see or smell smoke, you are in that higher risk zone. So we encourage you to refer to the website, which you can access through the provincial government website for more information on how to protect your health in a high-risk situation. And just a note about our hot and humid temperatures continuing adding to the wildfire threat and potentially causing health effects. Much of the province will remain abnormally hot today and Wednesday. So we want people to take action to protect yourselves and others. People at greater risk include older adults, infants and young children, and people with chronic illnesses. So please remember to check in on people in your community, especially those who are older, living alone, and other people who may be at risk, and do that in person or on the phone. Ensure you're looking after yourselves. Drink lots of water. You may actually be dehydrated before you feel thirsty. Keep your blinds and shades closed so that your house can stay cooler. Use air conditioning or a fan if you can, and schedule outdoor activities during the coolest parts of the day. Our thoughts are with everybody responding to and living with the effects of these wildfires, so please take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fitzgerald. I just want to make one further comment. I forgot to mention, when this all started last week, we said we would continue to look at all options, how to protect Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and now given the fact that we still continue to have more wildfires as we continue to battle the ones that already exist. Fortunately, we've been able to do a good job on a number of them, including the ones in Labrador, of course, and maintaining the one in Holyrood. We do continuously look at what other steps need to be taken. And as I said, as more fires continue to crop up, there is only a finite number of assets, not only in this province, but in the country. So we are working with Jamie's department to make sure that if there's any other steps we feel that need to be taken, we will, and that does include looking at the risk of ATVs. Is it one of the reasons that fires are starting? So we've asked for that extra bit of, review of that aspect, and we'll have more to say about it in the future in the event that any other further steps need to be taken. But we'll be in touch on that one for sure. Minister Haggie.
Thank you very much, Premier. Thank you, Constable Cadigan, and thank you, Dr. Fitzgerald. Before I start with my prepared remarks, I'd like to just take 2 minutes to talk to the volunteer firefighters in the Bay de Verde area, particularly those around Victoria. You've had a real hard time, guys. It's been a slog. It's a marathon, not a sprint. We know you have worked as hard as any people humanly can. And the reason you got moved was for your safety. We want you to be able to go home at night rather than become a casualty of this fire. You live to fight another day. Some days you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Hang in there, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for the work you've done. We've not forgotten about you. From the point of view of some of the Premier's comments, the regional state of emergency will be expanded to include the areas currently under an evacuation alert, which is those areas of CBS and Paradise, and will also now expand to include Galway and Southlands. That latter two will give us another 5,400 people to be concerned about for potential for evacuation. So you should all have go bags handy, and there are plenty of resources advising what you can and should put in them. Firesmart.ca. The government of Newfoundland and Labrador has a page on its own website, and I would encourage you to go there. The reason for a regional state of emergency is it allows better communication and better coordination, even though the organizations that are involved currently have been collaborating very well. It will speed the process up and allow a more rapid response. Those areas under a regional state of emergency are not necessarily ordered to evacuate. They are ordered, if you like, to be ready. The evacuation alert is the next stage, and that has already been issued for 2 areas and will now be for 4. Get your go bag ready. When, as Premier said, or if an evacuation order is issued, because of the population numbers involved, we're going to start in an ordered fashion with those areas nearest the fire and then move through other streets should that become necessary. The RNC will be there to direct traffic, literally. Some streets that are currently 2-way may become 1-way. So I would advise you to follow recommendations and advice from law enforcement because it's for your own safety. If you have been evacuated, you need to register with the Red Cross. And we've changed the way slightly that you do that. You can do it in person at one of the evacuation centers. You can do it by calling 1-800-863-6582. And you could also do it by visiting www.redcross.ca/2025 Newfoundland wildfires with no spaces in. I would encourage you to listen to official channels and recognize sources of information. There is almost a small cottage industry out there of people who have nothing better to do than manufacture false information. And all this is doing is causing agitation and anxiety. The information that is there from government is posted in print form in the evacuation centers and is readily available on government websites. So I just conclude by echoing some of Dr. Fitzgerald's comments once again. Stay safe, be kind, and just as a final comment to reference what the Premier is saying, I've been in regular contact with Minister Olszewski, and we have started those discussions about disaster financial assistance for the province. Thank you, Premier.
Thank you, Minister. Any questions?
Premier, you started talking about the volunteer firefighters. Have any? They got pulled out of the fire yesterday. Has anyone been injured or needed medical attention?
No, not to my knowledge.
Premier, there's obviously a lot of people, and you're referencing this, that are upset that resources are coming to St. John's or the St. John's area instead of Kingston, where they've been for a while. What would you say to those people?
I'll reiterate what I said in my remarks. Every region is important, and we take advice on the experts of where the assets need to go and how the fires need to be addressed and attacked. And like I said, these experts have gotten us through some disasters in the past, and they'll get us through as best we can for these disasters and future ones as well. And I have full faith that they're making the best decisions with the information they have at their fingertips, not even on a daily basis, on an hourly basis.
We've heard from some people who've said that fire resources or water bombers are going out later to the CDN area and earlier to Paddy's Pond area. Can you clear the air around that? Have you heard that as well?
No.
Or criticism about that? People saying that, as of 6:37 a.m. this morning, there were water bombers over Paddy's Pond.
Yeah, so I would be careful of individuals who I've heard as well are using apps to monitor planes and flights. The information should come from Jamie's department. And this is why we've been providing this information on a daily basis about where the air assets are at any given point in time when we do these briefings. There are assets in the Kingston fire right now. There's assets at the Martin Lake fire. There's assets in the Paddy's Pond fire. So we're looking at this, spreading these resources out to all the fires at the moment.
How are you planning to transport residents who do not have access to a vehicle?
Sorry?
How do you plan to transport residents who don't have access to a vehicle?
So that'll be part of the evacuation plan, to make sure everybody has access to leave their homes and where they're going to go. And again, this is part of the reason we do the alert as well, to make sure people are ready. And if anybody has any issues that they feel that they may need addressed in the event, hopefully we don't face the event of an evacuation order in communities here in the Northeast Avalon, that we'll be ready to address all those necessary steps that need to be taken.
Yesterday you said that there was about 15,000 people in the evacuation alert. Any idea now when you include Southlands and...
Yeah, I think Minister Hagee said about an additional 5,400.
What can you tell us about the additional private assets that are coming to the province? You mentioned Blackhawks from Utah. What more can you tell us about that?
I mean, they're going to help as we continue to see expansion of the fires here and create, ignition of new fires. Obviously, we do everything we can to make sure we can have assets coming here, some of which, of course, come from other provinces through the agreements we have with the agency, and of course, some will be funded privately or we will be funding private retention of these through the government. So, we continue to look at which ones we need and which ones are available and how quickly we can get them here. The Black Hawk will be able to fly in the night, which is something that we're unable to do right now, so that'll certainly help.
Is there a cost associated with
Yes,
those assets?
this is millions of dollars, but it's every penny is worth spending.
Could you give some information about why you want to speak to that individual? Because your presence suggests some criminal interest. I wonder if that's true or why you want to speak to that individual. Do you have anything more about that?
I mean, if you look at any incident, no matter the seriousness, we want to ensure we have all the information. And in this case, that's no different. I mean, we have information that a vehicle left an area where we are now responding to a significant wildfire. So we want to ensure that we glean any detail that we can, and that's what this call is all about.
What would fire conditions need to look like for you to change the alert to an order for Southlands and Galway? And does the highway play a role in that?
Jamie can speak to this a little bit more, but it's two things. Obviously, it's the fire behavior and the location of the fire. So, you don't need to be a fire expert to say the closer the fire is to a community, the more likely it's going to be evacuated.
Sure. Do you believe that the Paddy's Pond fire is a suspicious fire?
Sorry, I missed the first part. Was it?
Do you believe that the Paddy's Pond fire is a suspicious fire? If you're looking for information about it, you think it's a...
So we're looking for any information. At this point, I'm not able to make any conclusion. It's important that if there's a person who left the area that we can speak to assist our investigation, that we contact that person. And, that goes further to say that anyone with information to assist, come forward.
It was mentioned, if necessary, there will be a phased evacuation. With such large number of people potentially needing to evacuate, is there a plan to initiate evacuation orders earlier than usual to be able to get everyone out?
No, it won't be earlier than usual. It will be when it's appropriate to make sure, I think to your point, it will be phased, but it will make sure that there's enough time that everybody in the evacuation zone will be able to get out in time. But the point of the phased approach in this case, obviously, these are larger communities. As Minister Haggie said, they may turn roads into one-way roads just to help with flow of traffic. But for sure, we will be advising people in enough time that everybody in the last part of the phased approach will be able to get out safely.
Why an expanded regional state of emergency covering parts of the metro area rather than a wider one for, say, the Avalon Peninsula or entire province, and what will factor into a decision like that?
Yeah, Minister Haggie, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, I mean, it's a proportional response to the situation at the moment. If it looks like we need to expand it, then we will. As I say, the agencies within the area have been working well. We just want to kind of fine tune them a little bit, if you like. It's not like we have, rogue councils or anything who are putting up roadblocks. So I wouldn't like anyone to go away with that impression. But it's simply a method of better coordinating and fine tuning that level of coordination at the level of fire management and evacuation potential management.
And we have spoken about the volunteer firefighters, of course, over the week and a half. But I spoke to one of the leaders at one of the St. John's regional fire departments this morning, and he said this is the busiest he's ever been in his career. I mean, they're doing everything they can as well. So certainly thanks for them for all their efforts and working, within and without St. John's.
What caused the incident with Labrador? Did it strike a rock? Was there anything operational?
I'm not sure. It's a hydraulic issue, I believe.
That's correct.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I literally just got that news as we were on our way here. So yeah, they'll get going on repairs, or they are going on repairs already.
What's your advice?
Constable Cadigan, I was curious, how much of an issue has it been with, can you speak to, I guess, for police with people stopping on the roads to take videos and pictures? We heard that there were 3 accidents yesterday, and how is this affecting emergency services being able to attend to the fire and other things?
You made a great point there. What kind of issue is it for police? I think it's an issue for the overall response. You have significant emergency responders on the ground, in the air, obviously, and any form of impediment can be a substantial issue. So that's why we're stressing that non-essential travel should not occur, period, in that area. And if you stop in that area, you could be putting a level of danger at play. There's vehicles going to be moving through that area for emergency purposes. And the reality is that we're in a situation now in response to evacuation orders where there's going to be more of a flow of traffic. As Minister Haggie mentioned, there will be some manipulation of roadways to ensure the flow is consistent. The primary role of the RNC, as is always, public safety, whether that be promoting traffic flow in a situation like this, or ensuring that individuals are following the direction of evacuation orders. And we're going to be very responsive to the information that comes from our provincial operations, and to promote safety of our community and the safety of all those responding. As I've said before, our community needs to collaborate in response. You may not be the one on the front line, but your behavior will impact their experience and what they encounter. So we truly have to come together, and this effort is going to be, essentially a provincial effort. Thank you.
Dr. Fitzgerald, do you believe, given the air quality right now, it's safe to play sports in the metro region?
Certainly in some areas of the metro region, it seems like it's pretty good air quality. So yeah, we don't, with any of these things, it's so fluid because of the wind and the way the wind is blowing. It can be, in one area of town it's fine, in another area of town it could be smoky. So, we always say use your common sense if you're thinking about doing any kind of physical activity outdoors. Certainly, if there's smoke, if you're irritated, if you have watery eyes or difficulty breathing, anything like that, you should refrain or consider refraining from participating in outdoor activities like that. But if you're outside and it seems to be clear and you're not having any difficulties, then physical activity is really important as well. And especially in these times when people are stressed, it can help to relieve stress as well. So, it is very much an at the moment kind of decision that you have to make.
What's your advice to people in these evacuation alert zones that have pets, for example, and they go commute to work during the day? Are you supposed to, is it time to move your pet somewhere safe, or?
Yeah, I think if you can take any precautions with regards to safety of anyone, and I know people love their pets, and we all love cats and dogs, and if maybe take it to a kennel out of the evacuation zone or whatever you can do, or a friend or neighbor who maybe isn't in the zone, sure, those are worthwhile steps to take.
In some evacuation zones, the RNC is conducting door-to-door checks. How do you manage this process given the volume of residents?
It's going to be a case by case. The reality is our officers are very familiar with our communities, and they know where maybe individuals at risk may be located. And that's really what it's all about. It's about knowing your community, knowing the challenges, and having that level of communication with different sections of the community to ensure we're promoting safety of all.
We've heard, at least anecdotally, that it's really tough getting a hotel room in the metro region right now. In the event of a larger evacuation of Paradise, Southlands, what have you, can you speak to some of the planning there and what that could mean for people who will have to leave their homes?
Yep. So again, it's been the norm that most individuals are able to find a friend or family to stay with. In the event, obviously, people need to don't have that option, then that's why we have the evacuation centers. It worked very well at Villanova. It worked very well at Persalvic, and it is working very well at Carbonear Academy. So those facilities will be available for individuals who don't have other options. Of course, yeah, this city and the surrounding region is very full right now in terms of hotels, but we'll continue to look at those options and make sure that they're available. And again, for people who have lost their homes, there is a cabinet committee that is looking at medium-term solutions about what's going to be next for them in terms of where they can live.
What's communication been like with Canada Games, given 2 events in the evacuation alert area have already been postponed, sailing and beach volleyball?
So I don't talk to Canada Games on a daily basis. I trust them and their analysis to make sure that they're making the right decisions for the safety of athletes, and I know they are. That was very clear that they made a decision last night not to proceed with certain events in Paradise, and I know they'll continue to monitor the situation as well.
Any risk to the games being postponed completely?
I can't tell you what tonight's going to look like. I thought last week that we were probably almost done with these briefings, and I was hopeful that what we were seeing was maintaining the fires, not growing, and of course things change, and we ended up doing 3 briefings over the weekend, and now we're continuing. So, it's certainly clear to me that we continue to do what's best. Continue to make those decisions, continue to keep people's safety at the forefront of any decision that we make, and not plan too far into the future about what this is going to look like.
Are you aware of any damage to any float plane hangars around the Paddy's Pond area?
I'm not.
Premier, you mentioned significant loss in CBN, though. Could you explain what that means, significant?
I think that those communities are, when the smoke lifts, are going to see some serious losses to their communities.
Is there any possibility of deploying more than the current 80 Canadian Army firefighters? I understand some are supposed to be deployed to central Newfoundland region. Can you provide an update?
I don't have any information on additional firefighters. I think the majority of the first 40 were going to go on the Adams Cove, Kingston Fire, but I don't have any information with me on the deployment of the last 40. I think they only got here, it was either late yesterday or they're coming today.
I have a question for Dr. Fitzgerald, if you would. When it seems like people react awfully differently now than they did 5 years ago when they're being asked to make collective sacrifices. And I wonder what you make of that, why that is, how you're going to plan to work with that, and maybe the Premier too, is you guys might have to ask people to leave their homes very soon.
So I think it's difficult. I mean, we've been through a lot in the last 5 years, and I think people have been asked. We've asked a lot of people in general, but I have great faith actually in the people in this province, and I really do think that in the end people will come together and support each other. I think we've seen that up to now. In the volunteers, we've seen it in the number. Even if we think about the volunteers that are taking part in the Canada Games, like we have people who, they're very proud to be Newfoundlanders. They're very proud of our reputation, and they want, they look after each other. It's always been my experience. So I really do think that, when the rubber hits the road, we will see that support.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Dr. Fitzgerald. I mean, certainly what her and Dr. Haggie did helped our province get through, an unprecedented situation in 2020 and 2021 with the global pandemic. We owe them so much credit and so much thanks. I can remember watching the briefings that they were doing back in 2020 as well, and the uncertainty for me was just that. It was always uncertain. I mean, I'm sure Dr. Fitzgerald got that question, is when is it going to be over? When is it going to be over? And the frustration with Newfoundlanders and Labradorians and the whole world was there was no answer to that question. This fire season will end. There will be an end to this. I can guarantee you that. So any sacrifices that we're asking people to make, it will be for a limited amount of time. And I can tell you the messages that I'm getting, the texts I'm getting from friends, family, people are sending my friends and family messages, and they're copying the messages and sending them to me to make sure I'm hearing from Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, is that they're willing to chip in. I'm getting all positive message and no negative messages, and people are just looking for how can they help, how can they volunteer, what can they do to help the situation. I'm getting no messages from a self-centered point of view about how their individual lives are affected. People are looking outwards and not inwards.
Newfoundland Labrador Hydro said that it's still within the transmission corridor of the fire. Is there any worries still of that?
I don't think there's any imminent worry, but I guess, as I said in my comments too, we continue to work with Hydro and Newfoundland Power in the event that any steps need to be taken to make sure that the water bombers can do their work.
A high-capacity helicopter was ordered. Has it arrived? And if so, can you share how aerial resources are being utilized?
The high-capacity helicopter, the first one, is due to be in the province this evening, and it will be coming into the Northeast Avalon. But as the Premier said, we are managing it from one instant management system or team, so that team will decide how that asset is deployed. The other high-capacity helicopters that the Premier spoke to will be here on Thursday.
Do you have any numbers on if anyone has been hit with these $50,000 to $150,000 fines yet?
No one has been fined yet.
Is it 1, 2? How many people do you have ballpark?
No.
Alberta water bombers are outfitted to operate at night and use night scanners, but our local water bombers are not. Is there consideration or plan to outfit our firefighting aircraft for night operations to help prevent flare-ups?
So our water bombers, as you say, they are not. We are using scanners that are used by I think ground search and rescue to help identify hot spots and so on into the evening. The 2 Black Hawk helicopters that are coming from Utah are equipped to operate at night, so we certainly look forward to those arriving.
2 or 3,
Two,
2.
You
When did you
mentioned,
say they were arriving, sorry?
Thursday.
Thursday, thank you.
you mentioned some help from the federal government. Do you have any idea what that help will be towards, like what they will help out with?
I mean, we have a disaster financial assistance relief program, so certainly we have to get to the threshold before that kicks in. I think it's probably safe to say if we're not there, we're going to get there. We don't have confirmation, of course, of what has been lost. So that program looks at providing assistance to rebuild all kinds of infrastructure, including roads and bridges. So we don't know exactly what's been lost yet, but that's certainly one of the things we look forward to talking to the federal government about. I also know from my time in public safety that there was conversations about that program being outdated. I think the threshold is, $1 million or $2 million. We've had numerous disasters that have crossed that threshold fairly quickly in the last 3 or 4 years. So I think it's safe to say that we'll be advocating to the federal government to update programs and look at more serious financial assistance in the event that any province has disasters like this. And they will have disasters like this. Just watching the news this morning, it was bouncing from province to province to province about wildfires.
I want to ask about other incidents at 145 Exploration Rescue just put out a little note that they're responding to a missing berry picker. Is there enough resources now to go around for incidents that are more routine like that?
Sorry, I missed
Are we challenged now with other routine things that might happen, like a missing berry picker?
I mean, there are resources in the province to deal with all kinds of situations. I mean, water bomber is not used for that reason. For that, don't mean to joke about it, but it's not. And of course, as I said, the experts make these decisions about allocating resources. I spoke to Constable Cadigan about the RNC, and he was comfortable with the amount of resources available to deal with this current situation in the Paddy's Pond area. Yeah.
Is there reason to be more careful?
I think I said on day one that I would appreciate all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians just taking that little bit of thought process before they do anything. Whether it is having a cigarette, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's driving your car, it doesn't matter what it is. Do you need to do it? Is there a safer way to do it? Let's make sure we're looking out for everybody.
One last thing, sorry, is there, in case someone has mobility issues and either wants to leave before the evacuation order comes in or when the evacuation order comes in, will there be particular resources or is there particular resources for someone who has, needs help getting out of their house, for example?
Yes, that's part of the process. Yeah. Okay, thanks everybody, and stay safe.